Welcome to the 2 Acre Homestead podcast. We're your host, Lisa.
And Kevin.
And on today's episode, we are going to be talking about burnout. Yes, it's a real thing on a homestead. You can get burnt out. But we're going to be talking about avoiding burnout when it comes to the harvesting and preserving season on the homestead. Welcome to the 2 Acre Homestead. Come along with us on our journey from a small suburban homestead lifestyle to our new lifestyle, homesteading in the rural countryside of southern Arizona. We'll share with you our tips, tricks, successes, and failures from both our past suburban lifestyle to our new rural lifestyle, all on the 2 Acre Homestead.
Okay, so let's dive in. Episode 2. So again, we're talking about burnout on the homestead. And as you said, it's a real thing.
Yes, it is.
Have we experienced that?
Yes, we have.
Yep.
I think we've had several instances where we've either wanted to throw in the towel or we're just so burnt out, we just can't do anything right now.
Yeah, and it's
or
good.
At that time. We're good now, but at that time.
Yeah, it's good to kind of step back for a minute, take a breather and assess, right? Because you don't want to quit. There's, I think early on, right in season 1, we talked about what's our why. And
Yes.
we have definite reasons why we homestead and we continue to homestead, but you can't let those things annoy you, bug you, and grate at you. So you get to that point where you really just want to throw in the towel, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about this last episode. One of the reasons why we took a couple months off was we needed to just take a break.
We certainly did. And it was a good break because we got a chance to sit back, reassess. Yes, we were still homesteading. We weren't slackers, but it gave us a chance to be in the monotony, to figure out, I shouldn't say the monotony, but in the rhythm, back and just into a normal rhythm so that we could figure out what it was that was stressing us out and making it difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all homesteaders need to do that because at the end of the day, when you're living a homesteading lifestyle, you're going against the grain. You're like a fish swimming upstream. Very few people like to live this lifestyle. Many people will look at you like you're crazy or you've got some sort of growth coming out of your neck. And it's hard because most people will say, you don't need to do all that. There's so much modern technology, rah. Why do you even try to live this type of homesteading lifestyle? So you are kind of going against the grain. So you do need to step back from time to time. It's important.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, it's easy because you can hear comments. You see it's the whole convenience. What would be a good way of putting it? The convenience rat wheel. I don't know, the wheel that the mouse or the rat, runs on to get its food, right? Anyway, but it hasn't, those conveniences haven't necessarily made things better health-wise because you're supposed to just, get all your food, order it in, eat out, on the go, in your car, through the drive-through.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I'm the thinnest person, but we get our exercise, and I think we get healthy food.
Mm-hmm.
There are many meals where you say, "Hey, most of this is from our garden," and it's a good feeling, and it tastes better,
and you feel better.
You feel better.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
kudos to you when you assess those things and when we both take a step back, right? Because it's not easy, but it's good to talk about these things. And hopefully we can share,
And when you're a husband and wife, like we are, when it's two of you that are homesteading, it's not kudos to one person, it's kudos to both, because we're a team. And if you're a husband and wife who are listening to this podcast and you both are homesteading together, kudos to you, because you're a team as well. And it takes the team. How does that expression go? It goes, the teamwork makes the dream work. And it's true, because if it's just one person pulling in one direction and the other person is pulling in the other direction, you're never going to get anywhere. You're just going to always be stuck spinning your wheels.
I agree.
Yeah.
So here's a fist bump to both of us.
There you go.
There you go. So as we talk about that, this is not in any special order, but these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about this season when we talk about burnout. Now, you mentioned this episode, we're going to concentrate on harvesting and preserving. How do you avoid the burnout with that? These are some of the other things we're going to be talking about as far as, getting burned out on your homestead. Projects. How can that burn you out?
Oh, Lord.
How can you avoid it? Or how can you reroute, right? Animals. Are there too many, for example? Here's a good one. Comparing yourself. That's interesting. That's going to be an interesting discussion.
I can't wait for that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. I cannot wait for that episode.
Yep. This is the topic. The redo.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah. Or bum, 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 bum.
Yeah.
There's work involved in many of these things, but why do it once when you can do it 3 times?
Yeah.
So
3rd time's a charm.
I think that's going to be a good topic too. How about doing all the things? That seems to be a kind of a common phrase now, huh?
It is, but it's a true phrase. I mean, that episode is really for people who are new. It's more for those who are brand new to homesteading when you're doing all of the things, because oftentimes new homesteaders, just like anybody who's new in anything, you've got this zeal, this energy, this gusto for what you've just learned. And you're like, I'm going to do it all. I'm going to milk the cow and I'm going to grow all of my food and I'm going to raise all of my meat and I'm going to recycle everything and I'm going to do permaculture.
Make every meal.
And exactly. And I'm going to cook from scratch. And oh my goodness, I'm tired.
My own bread, my own tortillas. I'm going to make my own ice cream.
Right? Yeah, I'm tired just thinking about all of the things. And we're seasoned homesteaders.
Right. But, and it's not just a new, somebody new to homesteading, but it makes me think of something that we've run into this. If you move to a new property, especially if that property is a different size, like for instance, a bigger size than what you're used to, and you have the ability to do more, kind of goes into that too, because then you think, oh, I'm just going to do all this, but you don't. What is it? So, one of the things about permaculture, right, is you're supposed to kind of assess, see where the shadows fall, where does water swell, do you get, what's your microclimate, because you can look at the weather for your city, but you'd be amazed if you get a little sensor out there, and then wind, right?
Right.
A lot of different things can affect. So you're supposed to take some time. And I know we've fallen into that. We do too much to start with, and we, don't take that advice.
Exactly. So, we've done it. Everybody's going to do it.
Yep.
We've done it. We preach not to do it, but we've done it ourselves. So, And that's why
that's part
we
of
can
this,
speak
right?
from experience.
Yeah, learn from our mistakes. Don't be the dolts that we are. Just you guys do the right thing. And anyway, so that'll be interesting. But here's one. How about self-care?
Yes.
You do all the things, right? And you forget, if I don't take care of me,
right,
then you're going to be taking care of me, or vice versa, right? And then how am I going to get to the 5, 10 things that I have stacked up that I've halfway started? And
especially for the homemakers, those of us that are homemakers, and I'm saying those of us because I know I'm the homemaker, and you really have to sit back and take care of yourself, because if mom can't go, if mom can't handle things, if mom is too tired because she hasn't taken care of herself, then for sure nothing's going to get done. It's going to affect your children. It's going to affect your family, and it's going to affect the attitude of the family. Mm-hmm. So taking care of oneself, whether it be physically, all of the above, physically, mentally, most importantly, spiritually. Mm-hmm. And for those of you that don't know, we are very close to our Bible. I'll put it that way. And if you don't take care of yourself spiritually, I mean, everything that you do just seems to fall apart, mm-hmm. because you're not doing it for the right reasons.
Yep. Yeah. There's principles that mm-hmm. help, like, when it comes to not doing too many things, right? It's mm-hmm. the expression is it's the striving after the wind, right? So,
right.
Those things can really help. And that's, something that can help you to be balanced when you mm-hmm. tackle all the things or some of the things, right?
Direct your blows. That's a Bible. That's in the Bible. Direct your blows. Yep. Yeah. It's a perfect principle, to be strategic in what you're doing instead of just trying to do it all at one time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's good. And then I think this is the last one that I have jotted down here. So stepping away. And that's something that, again, we talked about, right? We took some time. We said we need to and it's not that we have animals. We have to feed them every day. We didn't just leave them, to die. But
Goodness, no.
It comes down to things like all these projects and things like that. Mm-hmm. There were some personal things going on. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the big reasons why let's just step away for a little bit, right?
And sometimes that can be stepping away from things like social media. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that means actually physically mm-hmm. getting off the homestead.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like recreation, right? With the family, like we've got kids, and taking some time to really, we have some wonderful views out here. We can enjoy nature and so on, but actually getting away from I don't necessarily want to say the monotony, but the rhythm, and, focusing something on your energy on something else, having fun.
Right.
So, that's important. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So interesting topics that we are going to be taking a deep dive into as the season unfolds.
I think we'll learn something.
Yeah, we might learn something.
Hey, we might re-listen to these episodes later and say, why don't we follow what we say? But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. These will be some good topics to dive more into. Mm-hmm.
For sure.
So that being said, we always like to ask these questions of each other. What's new in your neck of the woods?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you looking to build a homestead from the ground up? Or maybe you're looking to build an off-grid dream home, a vacation home, or maybe just a piece of land to call your own. Visit yourcheapland.com to buy rural land in the wide open spaces of southwestern United States. When you visit yourcheapland.com, they're here to help you, and with their help, you can do this. You can take your dream of owning land and make it a reality. Most down payments are only $294, including the document fee. Remember, everyone qualifies for financing at yourcheapland.com. Head on over to yourcheapland.com and start making those dreams come true. And now, back to our podcast. Harvesting has been, I've officially started the harvesting season. So harvesting and preserving, which is what we're talking about today, but officially have started with that. Trying to get the pregnancy test done on Buttercup, our goat, one of our goats. We believe all 3 of our does are pregnant, but Buttercup, that particular doe, she seems to be the plumpest of everybody.
I was wondering how you were going to. Yeah.
I feel for her. My heart goes out to her. I'm like, oh, poor thing. It's summer. You're pregnant. Ugh, poor thing. So, but yeah, she's getting pretty plump, and that udder of hers is starting to look a little bit more full. So, I mean, I'm 99.9% sure she's pregnant, but got my test in the mail the other day. So gotta just get out there and get her tested and make sure. So I've been busy with that and busy with some things with the kids, redecorating their rooms. So, because our little men are growing up. So I've been, just really have been consumed with that. And just, it's amazing just to see them just growing into these little people who have these opinions
They're
now.
People now.
They're people now.
They're aliens. No.
Yes. Well, our oldest son used to look at his brother like, who's the alien and are we keeping him? But yeah, so just being kind of consumed with that. This is my last, I guess you could say my last year of it. Well, I don't know how to word that, but in the next couple of months, our oldest will be officially in school. He will officially be homeschooled. So, and I'm also starting to prep for homeschooling. And that's just, I'm a little nervous about that, to be honest with you. But because he's already done kindergarten, he's like anything and everything that they teach in kindergarten, he's surpassed that and then some. But so we'll be officially starting him in first grade. Yeah. And it's just a little nerve-wracking, but you know, it is what it is. And they grow.
Right. And we're going to be working on that together. So that'll be good. A lot of reasons why we want to homeschool versus in person, but that's going to be exciting.
Yeah. And I'm glad we'll be doing it together because math.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it'll be good.
Yeah, without going into much to it, I'm a computer guy, so yeah, the math stuff I'll help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because math.
Or for you Brits out there, because maths, I think they say, right?
Is it maths? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you love seafood? I do. I was raised on seafood. My dad would deep sea fish every month, and as the years have gone by, I've struggled to find that same crisp, fresh tasting seafood. That is until now. Wild Alaskan Company brings sustainably caught fish off the coast of Alaska straight to your door. You'll get things like rockfish, halibut, coho salmon, cold smoked salmon, and so much more. So head on over to wildalaskancompany.com, and when you go to checkout, use the coupon code 2ACRE, that's TWOACRE, for $25 off your first order. So again, that's wildalaskancompany.com and use the coupon code 2ACRE for $25 off your first order. And now, back to our podcast. So that's what's going on in my neck of the woods. What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Yeah. Wasn't one of our topics that we're going to talk about as far as burnout projects. So, yeah, I've got, there's a few things. There was a few things on the list, and started a few too many things. So and then, getting some new chicks and so on, had to kind of stop and, get some infrastructure going there. But anyway, I'm trying to get back to wrapping some projects up. So, focus is hard sometimes. Before we took the 2-month break, I started working on a couple things, one major thing, and then just time and just the circumstances of everything kind of got away. So I've got my short list that I need to finish.
Your punch list?
My punch list, yes. But I'm saying short for a reason, because sometimes you got to simplify, so good, bad, or indifferent. That's where I'm at as far as that. But enjoying using the shop, because that definitely is a time saver. So
yeah.
But I think that's my focus. So
yeah. And you seem really happy in the shop.
I do. It's I'll admit, it's a chance to escape.
It's a chance to rock out.
Right, rock out. Yeah, because I'll listen to music and so on. But I mean, when you're in the garden, right? You get to kind of be in your little zone and
not really
focus. No.
No, I've got my people.
But you do escape sometimes.
I've got my people.
Right?
My people come in. If you watch our YouTube channel, you'll see my people always come in. My little people, they always come in and demand food. Yeah. So they haven't discovered the cucumbers yet.
No, but although they're starting to grab their little step stools and drag them up to the fridge now and raid the fruit bin.
It's supposed to be that way.
And the snacks in the pantry, because it's apparently the snack room.
Yeah.
But what can you do? I mean, this is where we're at. Right?
And I love it. I wouldn't have it another way.
I know. I think we learn as time goes on to just take a deep breath and laugh, right?
Yeah, and just let it go. Anyway, so without further ado, I guess we better get into topic, because this is what people want to hear. Not us ranting and raving about our kids. Yeah, it's time. So today's topic, we are going to be discussing burnout and how to avoid burnout when it comes to the harvesting and preserving time of the year. For those of you who are in the Northern Hemisphere, this is the month of June, and we are hitting the summer months. For our Australian and Southern Hemisphere listeners, I do know you all are getting into winter, so you'll be hopefully applying some of these ideas later in the year. But for those of us where summer is, we're just starting to get those harvests of probably beans, carrots, cabbage, all of your brassicas, all your cooler weather crops are now starting to come in, if they haven't already. And you're starting to turn over your garden into the summer gardens where you're getting your squashes, your corns, your tomatoes, and, different fruits and so forth and so on. This is probably for the homesteader who is an avid gardener. June and July can be really busy months because you're in the process of changing seasons. So you are starting to bring in harvest in earnest. And it can be very overwhelming. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. And that's really what we want to talk to you, what I wanted to talk to you about. And basically, it starts with your mentality. One of the things that I would encourage a person in doing to avoid burnout is your garden. Think about how your garden grows. Your garden grows gradually. It doesn't just all of the sudden, boom, there's your garden. With the exception of zucchini. I don't know what it is about zucchini. You can go out there one day and there's nothing, and then the next day there's like 20 of them and they're all big. But I digress. For the most half, your plants that are in your garden grow slowly. They don't grow overnight. So that's your indicator. That's what the natural world, that's what God's world is telling you. And what that translates into is you don't have to harvest everything at one time. You can harvest slowly. So if that means that you have to break it up every day for, let's say you say, you know what? For the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be harvesting all of my brassicas, and I'm going to be doing that for 30 minutes every day, from picking to processing every single day. Well, that's a good way to avoid burnout. Why? Because you're doing it slowly. You're doing it progressively. You're not just doing it all at one time. I've seen homesteaders where they're like up until 2 o'clock at night, or in the middle of the night or morning, if you want to call it that, processing tomatoes. I mean, come on. 2 o'clock in the morning, don't do that to yourself. You will get burnt out. You'll get tired. If not just physically, but mentally tired, and then you're exhausting your family. It's better to take little batches and process those things than it is to take a huge batch and try to process it and eat up all this time doing it. My second tip is, actually, let me go back to that first tip, because that actually requires planning. And it starts with how you plant in your garden. So it requires some upfront thinking. Think about how you want to slowly harvest your crops. So you don't want to plant all of your broccoli at one time. Plant some broccoli, space it out. When you're transplanting your broccolis, for example, transplant them out a little bit here, wait a week, transplant some more, plant some more broccoli seeds. I'm just using broccoli as an example. Space them out. When you're planting your seeds, space it out in a 2-week interval. I say 2 weeks because that gives you time to have a breath of fresh air in between all of the harvesting. So that way you're not killing yourself trying to harvest everything at one time. Now, moving on to point number 2, getting into harvesting, look for the easiest ways to harvest. Let's take, for example, tomatoes. One of the easiest things I know for myself, what I do, if I have a bumper crop of tomatoes, because let's say I didn't plan it out correctly, I know that's going to happen this year because all of my tomatoes got planted at the same time. And a couple of them have died, and the plant starts that I did have to purchase are pretty much at the same age as my existing tomatoes, the ones that I planted from seeds. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a bumper crop where it's all going to come in at one time. That is not what I was looking to do. So what I'm going to do with my tomato harvest this year is I'm going to apply point number 2, and that is looking for the easiest way to process that harvest. What's the path of least resistance? When this happens to me, the last time this happened, this was like 5 years ago when this happened, what I did is I took my tomatoes and I literally put them in the freezer. I put them in the freezer, set them aside, and it wasn't until months down the road that I processed those tomatoes when I was ready to process those tomatoes. So it was the path of least resistance for me. It was the path of least work. So don't be afraid to do things like that, to take a bumper crop like that and say, you know what? I can't deal with you right now. Into the freezer you go. Or maybe the path of least resistance for you is to take your bumper crop of whatever that thing is. And let's just say, for example, you dehydrate it. I'm just going to cut you up and put you on my dehydrator and away you go. Well, then, you know what? If that's the easiest thing for you to do, the quickest thing for you to do, then do it. I know for me, sometimes I will have different herbs that will, like, for example, my tarragon. I am on my second or third harvest this year of tarragon. And I just simply, the path of least resistance is for me because I live in a dry, arid climate. I just tie it up and hang it to dry in a cool, dark place. That's all that I do. So garlic is the same thing. Pull it up out of the ground, tie it up, let it air dry, let it cure. And when I am ready to deal with it, meaning, you know, what I like to do with my garlic is I like to cut the tops off and the bottom roots off and then just leave them like that. When I'm ready to deal with my garlic, then I will. So you need to be the person who's in control of your harvest and of processing your harvest. Your harvest should not be in control of you. Because once it starts taking control of you, that's where you are going to start experiencing burnout.
And actually, just to cut in for a second, I think that's a good principle in any of these topics that we talk about related to burnout, right?
Yeah.
Don't let insert thing here control you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to, you know, as much as you can, get ahead of it, right? Don't let it control you. And if you realize, hey, something's going on here, I'm tired, I'm edgy, so then that's when you stop and you say, what do I need to correct here?
Right. Something's wrong. Mm-hmm. Yeah, something's not balanced. So by staying in control, that is really what's going to help. And really try to whittle your harvesting down to small harvest. There is a challenge that goes on It's a hashtag challenge that goes on just about every year. And that was put on by Three Rivers Homestead. And it's called the Every Little Bit Counts Challenge. And I love the principle behind it because it teaches you to do little bits at a time. A little bit adds up because especially as a homemaker, a wife, homesteader, all the titles that go with you and responsibilities, just being able to do just a little bit here and there is way more worth your time and effort than doing this whole big massive batch of whatever it is. The third tip that I would say for anybody when it comes to harvesting and processing your harvest, know how to temporarily preserve a harvest until you can deal with it. It kind of goes with point number 2, but it's a little bit different in that you need to self-educate yourself. You need to self-educate, on how to temporarily preserve something so that you can deal with it later on. So, or temporarily preserve something so that you can continue adding on so that it becomes this big thing. I just recently did a YouTube video where I talked about this a little bit and showed and demonstrated it with peas. I had a situation in my garden where I did not think the peas were going to make it. And all of a sudden, they just shot up and started producing left and right. So every other day I go out into the garden and I do my watering and I do harvest and I harvest my peas. And what I showed on the YouTube video was, different days that I had harvested the peas at different times or different days. And I just preserved them temporarily in the refrigerator in a Ziploc bag. And I kept doing that until I had a big harvest. And then from there, I took those peas, deveined them, whatever I had to do. And now they're in the freezer. And it was the easiest thing for me to do. There was no stress involved in it whatsoever. So that is something, learn how to at least temporarily keep those things in storage until you can deal with them. And the fourth and final tip that I have for anybody when it comes to avoiding burnout when it comes to harvesting and preserving is do not overplant. Sometimes we as homesteaders, we can get caught up in especially I should say as gardeners, we can get caught up in oh yeah, I need 50 tomato plants so that I can, process enough tomatoes for, pizza sauce, tomato sauce, marinara sauce, all the things. You don't need 50 tomato plants. Well, I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe you have a family of 12. I don't know.
Well, you start with what do we actually eat?
But exactly. And then you start with what do you actually need? Mm-hmm. Because sometimes you may only need 5 tomato plants. And you just need those 5 tomato plants to produce really good amounts of food. You may not need 50 of them. Mm-hmm. If your family is like ours, where you have young people whose tastes change, I've seen our kids go from in one meal, I like this. Oh, I like this. And then 2 seconds later, I don't like. So,
which really is, I don't want.
Yeah, which is really, I don't want it anymore. But, people's taste buds change, especially when they're young and developing. So you may think, oh, I need to plant a whole bunch of tomatoes. And maybe that particular season, your kids don't like it for whatever reason.
Well, and then this kid, right? I love peppers. And there was a time where we were growing a lot of different types of peppers, like the Caribbean.
The Caribbean, yeah.
Or Caribbean, yeah. Tomato. But I love
peppers, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll eat the hot ones, but I don't like the pain. I want flavor with the heat. But I think for me, what I learned is we were freezing them, but I wasn't eating them because I think it's me that eats them more. I like them fresh more than I do frozen. So I think we realized we need to kind of scale back how many peppers we do, right?
I didn't freeze a whole lot of them. I canned most of them.
Well, that's true. You can some.
Yeah.
But I think
Most
we didn't
of them
go through
got
as
in the
many.
canner.
So that's another thing, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
you just
Yeah,
look
that's
at, hey, why, we planted all these things last year, but did we go through them? So you make an adjustment there, right?
And that's the thing. You really need to look at your pantry and say, this is what I need. This is what the family didn't eat. Peppers are a good example. Last year, I grew a boatload of peppers. I was so sick and tired of peppers by the end of the season. I was wishing those plants death.
And you know what's going to happen?
I wanted them to die.
You know what's going to happen before next season? I'm going to say, you know what? I want more peppers. What's going on here? Right?
Too bad. But no, but last year I planted so many peppers, and we still have plenty of peppers.
Well, and we've done things
And-
like you've dehydrated them and
Yeah, for sure. If dehydrated them, make
right? You
make
can-
spices with them, and so forth. But my point is that, I'm not growing as many peppers this year. I still have my Caribbean. I say Caribbean, you say Caribbean, but but I still have my Caribbean peppers in ground because I think that's a family favorite. But not as many. I think I only have three of those plants in ground right now. But and that's it. I mean, I have like cayenne peppers and some bell peppers, but that's all. I mean, I think I have a total of, just counting off the top of my head, 79, maybe about 10 pepper plants in that whole entire garden, and that's it. Last year I don't even know how many pepper plants I had. It was a lot, but it was with intention. I intentionally did that because I wanted a lot of peppers. But this year, nope, not interested. And actually, I actually have less than that. I don't have 10 pepper plants, actually, come to think of it, because 3 of those have died. This is the year of the bean for me. I've got a lot of beans and a lot of eggplant, and a lot of okra. That is what I'm focused on. And I'm also focused on fruit because, we have people with opinions in this house right now. But that's the point, is that you want to plant what you know your family's going to eat. And you want to be mindful of what your family likes, what they don't like, and don't overplant. If you plant too much, then you're just going to get burnt out, unless you do it like I did last year with intention, so that I didn't have to be worried about it this year. And that's worked out beautifully because I don't have to worry about peppers this year. It's not high on my priority list, thankfully. But those are pretty much my tips and tricks for avoiding burnout on the harvesting and, the processing of your harvest. Just really be mindful of what you're doing, and try to just a little bit goes a long way, and don't overplant, and plan accordingly.
Okay, cool. Well, those are some really good tips. And I think this was a good first part of our discussion this season on burnout. So stick around with us. Next episode, we're going to be hitting the topic doing all the things.
Yes.
Looking forward to that. So, and all the rest of them too.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So big thumbs up to reassess and to kind of get through some of these things, thinking about them, because it helps us, but hopefully it helps all of you out there too. We know that we get comments from time to time, and feel free to hit up mainly Lisa. You kind of check on the social media and all that kind of stuff, right? All the ways, and if you look in the show notes, there's ways to contact Lisa. So we appreciate that very much. If you have any questions too, that might help too. We might be able to answer some questions in some of these episodes as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we thank you very much for your support, for listening, for sticking around with us. And as always, from all of us here on our homestead, stay safe out there.
And happy homesteading.